Before we jump into it, I just want to thank you, any of you who are here. Whether you've been here for a while or whether you just planted your seeds. I can tell by, how do I say that? I feel like the majority of you here are here because you support the work, and you appreciate the effort, and you want to learn and grow, and therefore you want other people to learn and grow. And so I thank you for your contribution and your participation. You don't have to be here. And I know that at least, I don't know, I feel like it's been like a year and a half where I've just felt off, and I'm sorry about that. I guess I'm just going through my own stuff, and as we all are. And it's kind of hard, like, being on the other side of something and being a new person. And as we learn and grow, it's like, you know how reading Rainbow used to be like, the more you know, read in Rainbow. It's like, there's so many beautiful things that can be like, wow, the more I know, this opens so many doors, and sometimes the more you know, it's like, once you know, it's like you can't unlearn certain things or unsee certain things. And again, we all change, Like, I went back and was looking at the readings from, like, I think it was when Uranus first shifted in 2018, when I was living in Pennsylvania in that house where, like, that old man died, and I was like, I had just moved, and I knew I wasn't going to stay there very long, and Zumi, I thought, ate that rat poison, and my computer died, and actually a lot of folks came in at that time. But the point is that, God, haven't we all changed over the last 5 years in certain ways? And it's so beautiful, and I want to applaud you for all of your hard work, okay? So I thought it would be fun because this is Aries time. So there's this beautiful book. I don't know if I necessarily agree with everything that she says. This is also written in the past, so there's some information, again, knowledge that's been gained that switches kind of some perspectives on this. But she's written, like, Alice Bailey has written, I don't know, like at least 20 books, or channeled them, I guess is really what they are. But this is volume 3, a treatise on the 7 rays. And I'd like to read this Aries, because we're in this time, right? And I looked up in the index under Aries, and it says the purpose of Aries. So it says, Aries initiates the cycle of manifestation. All souls, as individual entities, come into human incarnation for the first time in the sign of Cancer, emerging as mental entities in the sign of Aries, as emotional desire entities in the sign of Taurus, and as vital entities in the sign of Gemini, taking then physical form in Cancer. I hope that made sense. It says this is involuntary and is a subjective cycle. Thus they emerge into the ocean of physical plane existence, into the world of matter. Yet the first impulse is awakened in Aries, for Aries is the place where the initial idea to institute activity takes form. It is the birthplace of ideas, sextiling Gemini, right? It is the birthplace of ideas, Aries, and a true idea is in reality a spiritual impulse taking form, subjective and objective. There originates the response of the soul to the higher aspect or quality of deity, because there appears the will to incarnate, quote unquote. So it says the keynotes of the sign Aries are 4 in number, all conveying the same idea. They can be expressed in the following 4 inconjunctions, which, remember, we talk about this all the time. Inconjunctions is 150 degrees. It's an adjustment, right? They can be expressed in the following 4 excuse me, I get excited, Aries, and it says injunctions, not in conjunctions, injunctions. I'll have to look up that word. It says, which are given symbolically to the incarnating soul. Number 1, remember, these are the keynotes of the sign Aries, which express symbolically what is given to the incarnating soul. It says, number 1, the express the will to be and do. Number 2, unfolding the power to manifest. Number 3, entering into battle for the Lord. Number 4, arrive at unity through effort. It says creation, being, activity, strife, and synthesis. These are the nature of the Lord of the first constellation, and enable him to influence our planet to these results. Thus, the great cycle of struggle towards expression starts, and the foundational works of the secret doctrine, which is in italics here, with which you are also familiar, express the goal and purpose of the first sign of the cardinal cross. Remember, I know we're all on different pages. Cardinal is Aries, the beginning of the equinox, right? We represent equinox, then we have Cancer, solstice, Libra, equinox, Capricorn, solstice. It says, what appears in Aries as spiritual energy enters into the soul stage in Cancer, in which the sign the soul incarnates for the first time in form reaches a point of equilibrium in Libra, in which sign, soul, and personality achieve a balance and cooperation, and in Capricorn, the will nature arrives at fulfillment, and a visioned goal is reached. A visioned goal is reached, because Capricorn would be the earth essence of it, right? Again, Aries is the idea, ultimately, right? Cancer is where it becomes, where the soul or that is then incarnated. It's like, okay, here's the idea. I'm going to be born again. I want to do this. And it's like, okay, Cancer, you got to feel good about it, right? You got to believe, you got to put all your soul into it, right? You can't just be ego, Aries, although the will to do in this life, it has a lot to do with it. Then we have Libra. Is this fair? How does this work with other people? How do I combine this? What's the compromise that's needed? Is there anything that needs to be sacrificed? Because when we get to Capricorn, we're being ruled by Saturn, and I guess we're talking about a full scope here of the year. And in your map, this is where, again, something becomes physical. It says, in Capricorn, the man reaches either the height of personal ambition, or, this is probably the difference between ego, whether we're doing it for ourselves or whether we're doing it for the Lord. Which, in essence, this book, just as a side note, that matters. But additionally speaking, each zodiac sign has its lord, right? Sidereal folks say this a lot, like the 8th lord in the 4th house, right? 8 and 4. Because Aries lord would be Mars, right? Which is the action, again, to do. It's the strength to battle something, etc. So, let's back up. Let's actually read the whole thing again. It says, what appears in Aries as spiritual energy enters into the soul stage in Cancer, in which sign the soul incarnates for the first time in form. therefore reaches a point of equilibrium in Libra, in which sign soul and personality achieve a balance and cooperation, and in Capricorn, the will nature arrives at fulfillment and a vision goal is achieved. In Capricorn, the man reaches either the height of personal ambition or he becomes the initiate, attaining his spiritual objective. The difference between these two goals depends upon the mode of progression around the wheel of life, right? Everybody's set up a little different. It should be remembered, generalizing again and speaking symbolically, that the crosses, which means we're talking about when they mention crosses, we're talking about modalities, all the cardinal signs, which we mentioned, all the 1111, all the fixed signs, which is, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, or all the mutable modality, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius. It says, it should be remembered that the crosses also turn, being the spokes of the great wheel. The undeveloped man goes from Aries to Capricorn, right? So we talk about, I want to manifest this for, say, Capricorn, like the ego part of it, right? Think of how a lot of people are like, I want to do this because I want to be a millionaire, or I want a fancy house. Like that. People do that. Obviously, greed is a major problem, sadly, in this world. Now it says the undeveloped man goes from Aries to Capricorn and to Libra to Cancer, whilst the developed soul reverses the process. And then it says, Aries therefore starts the process of the most ancient initiation, which all the human family has already undergone and will undergo. It says the first great cosmic initiation, as far as humanity is concerned, is initiation into incarnation, the initiation of individualization, in other words. It says this process accumulates eons later in the reversing of the wheel and the attaining of the definite goal in Capricorn. It accumulates in the achievement of transference from off the fixed cross onto the cardinal cross, right? Because if we go in the motion of heaven, cardinal comes after fixed, right? Libra comes after Scorpio. Aries comes after Taurus, etc. Let's read that again. The achievement of transference goes where we get off the fixed cross, out of these fixed signs, onto the cardinal energy, which is, in its turn, the logical sequence of the transference off of the mutable, or also called common cross, back onto the fixed cross. I hope this makes sense. It says, therefore, in its lowest manifestation, Aries is the creator of those activities, conditions, and processes which lead to the manifestation of the soul through the medium of purely form. The latter of those higher creative undertakings which lead in due time to the manifestation of the spirit through the soul. It says Aries is also the purveyor of our star system, if you will, particularly the system of fire, and she calls it electric fire. It says, and of the dynamic nature of God, which has its qualities of fostering and nourishing heat, and also the fire which burns and destroys. It says, from the standpoint of esoteric astrology, there are three major signs in which the three deaths, quote unquote, are undergone. Let's keep going. It says, number 1, Aries, which at different points along the path of life forces the soul onto the burning ground and subjects it to a purification process during incarnation. Through the lesser fire of the mind, the jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolve in flames, and then the path, capital P, stands clear and unobstructed. Vision is achieved. This is probably the lesson of the Lord of Aries being Mars. The other Lord, which is Mars, is Scorpio, which is about purification, right? Because really what we do in Aries, if you think about it, well, we're in spring here. I know some of you are in Australia, and I've always wanted to go there, New Zealand. But either way, if you're looking at spring, if we go all the way Aries and we go all the way to Scorpio, autumn, right before winter, this is a crucial time, because when you get to Scorpio, you'll know whether it's like, okay, am I going to be able to sustain? Will this sustain? Are we going to survive? Do we have enough to thrive? Do we have enough to share? Is this pure to my soul? Was this just physical? Is this spiritual? Things like that, right? And I know it's hard. It says, through the fiery process of war and strife, brought to the individual through the influence of the planetary ruler Mars, the god of war, a needed purification takes place. The same purification, but this time through vision, comes to the developed man through the activity of the subjective ruler of the planet Mercury, who is the illuminating principle which releases the mind. Remember, Aries sextiles Gemini. This is why we're talking about this. It's an opportunity. Let's read that again. The same purification, but this time through vision, comes to the developed man through the activity of the subjective ruler of the planet Mercury. So you want to look at Mercury in your chart. The ruler, this is the ruler of the planet Mercury. So say you have Mercury in Scorpio, or you have Mercury in Taurus, etc. Look to that and see, because this ruler is who is the illuminating principle, which is going to help you release your mind, which I suppose is ego, and directs the way through life and will enable a person to become aware of the divine plan which underlies all of the fiery experiences, right? Because it's kind of like, all right, God of war, right? Aries, like, oh my God, I had to surrender this. I had to fight for that. I fought and I lost. I tried and I failed. Like, oh shit, I did that egotistically. Oh, why was I focused on money? Or like, why was I trying to cling to this, control this, or whatever it is. It's like, and especially the where we have to walk through the fire. Eventually Mercury does help us to be like, okay, wait. And maybe that's what Opal Oracle is. It's like having these conversations about like, well, okay, yeah, that happened. To maybe help us understand that we all have to walk through the fire. But then it's like finding again, what did this say? The ruler of the planet Mercury. And I would see how that asks how far Mercury is from Aries. It says, this is the illuminating principle which releases the mind, right, where we loop, and directs the way of man through life and enables them to become aware of the divine plan which underlines all the fiery experiences. Now, number 2, Scorpio. It says, Scorpio brings about eventually the death of the personality. And with that, we shall later deal when we have time to consider that sign. Esoterically as well as exoterically, Scorpio is the sign of death and burial in earth, of descent into the depths in order to be lifted up again onto the heights, which in essence is the mountaintop of Capricorn. That's Scorpio's sextile. Right? We can then, Aries, okay, we walk through the fire. Mercury, we end up understanding a bit more why that happened. Again, walking through these depths, and the reason why we can understand it is because we climbed the mountain. We realized, okay, I made it here. Right now I can see this in a whole new point of view. Let's keep going. I love this book. It says, it is stated in some of the most ancient books that, this is in quotations, the heat of the earth, the mother, and the sting of the scorpion are the beneficent gifts which the turning of the wheel gives to man at the beginning and the end, quote unquote. These gifts, when accepted and used, bring a man to liberation and eventually from the control and pain of the fixed cross. Because there is, I would say those are actually two very accurate words for the fixed cross. It can create security for someone who's like very mutable, very movable energy. You want to focus in on those fixed houses so you can feel more steady. But I will say there's a lot of control and again pain associated with those fixed crosses. Now, number 3, Pisces. And before we get into this, I'd like to mention one little thing. I was looking at this the other day. So they have this tabulation of the orthodox astrological relationships. Let's see if this lines up. No, it's not that one. Hold on a second. No, I'm trying to do something complicated. Oh, did I just lose my page? Pisces, you're always so slippery. Where did you go, Pisces? What page were we on? Shit. Hold on. Isn't this book fascinating? I know this isn't going to make sense to everyone. Honestly, I've had to pick this book up and put it back down so many times that it's like, it's kind of like the Bible sometimes where a book's real dense. It's like, okay, we have to go in little portions. But I just wanted to mention this because I suppose these 3 are very important here. Oh, did I lose it? Oh, 93. That's the page. Thank you very much. I remember now. Here we go. Pisces, number 3. And remember, these 3 are the 3 deaths that we have to undergo. So Aries, and then we have Scorpio, then we get into Pisces. It says Pisces sees the relinquishing or the death of all of the influences which hold the man to the wheel of birth and his release from the control of the common or mutable cross. Now, the interesting thing about this doesn't work out for all of it when we work into the signs and they break it down. But for this section particularly, as the foundation is Aries, this is one of the ones that actually has each of the 3 big lessons having to do with it are actually on different modalities. It's like we have to learn how to do things from these different points of view. This actually reminds me of the Cross of Matter. Do you remember that reading? It's like, and we just mentioned this on the Jupiter transit angles natal on YouTube. It's like the ascendant, the MC, the descendant, and the IC. These 4 points, that plus sign with a circle around it means Earth. That's us here. It's basically us here on Earth. It's like here's X marks the spot. There you are in the middle. But there we are. But we have to work in all of these places. Oh, let's read these three last things to close this out. So this is also, where does this say? She mentions this old commentary. I'm not sure exactly who expresses that. But this is where we look through Aries, Scorpio, Pisces. Aries says this: "The fire blazed forth, and through that fire I died to life, and so was born to death. And then again I died to form." Aries. "The heat of the earth, the fiery temper of the mother, destroyed the form, released the soul, and so the lesser self was killed." Scorpio. "The waters drowned the man. The fish was made to disappear. And then it appeared again, only to die, or else to die and bring salvation." Pisces. "Thus there are symbolically the death through fire, the death through earth, and the death through water, burning, suffocation, and drowning. But in this world cycle, the death through air is not either known or understood." It's probably like the death of the mind, right? The most complicated. It says, there are not, therefore, four deaths, as the goal of our system during manifestation is initiation or release into the air. I guess that would be giving it to God. So something to think about. Something to think about. I know that was kind of intense. You're like, well, how does that have to do with my week, Raaji? I don't know. You gotta ask God that one, I guess. I guess these are words that also came out to close this out. We have the word of generosity. We have reading between the lines. Magic. And earnestness, earnest. It says, "I am intuitive, and my intuition allows me to hear way more than just the words others are saying. With this power to read between the lines, I see that the words 'I love you' might be rarely spoken, but their sentiment lurks in phrases like, 'I changed your oil. Here's that article. Did you,' it says, 'and did you use up all the A1 sauce?'" And then I saw, "Holy crap, that's unbelievable." All right, I guess we'll leave that like that. Oh, no, we'll close like this. 2 questions. Number 1, name three things that you're grateful for. Pretty please. And also, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And I suppose whatever the initiation is, or whatever the inspiration is, or the will to do and to be, to create, how does that I don't know, connect to the bigger plan? Tu sabe? All right. I love you so much. I hope that was interesting and helpful. I know all of you are learned ones here, and I really appreciate that. You know, being an initiative. This book, they actually call them disciples when you get to a certain point, right? Which sometimes with that, it's like where Jesus is just like, I watched that Chosen show recently. It's like Jesus was like, follow me. And you know, a lot of that to learn, you have to leave so much behind. You have to trust so much that there is a bigger plan with everything. And I guess that's where the control and the pain of the fixed cross is really hard. Because that doesn't want to let go. And the mutable cross doesn't want to decide. And the cardinal cross, that's why cardinal energy or cardinal folks are tired a lot. Because they're generators. And they have to constantly, like, that could be something too. Maybe some of you want to look up that body graph. Like, I'm a generator. So, particularly with, over the last few years, during people getting boners or whatever, it was hard to, you know, because a lot of people weren't doing a lot. And generators, like, generate energy to get it going. But we all need to do that because we all have cardinal energy, you know. So don't think that you're the only one that needs to do something to make things happen. And that your efforts really do matter, though, where you put them in and where you don't give up. Even if you don't understand, like, why it is that you... like, I don't know. We could keep going and going. But anyway, I love you so much. I hope this was helpful. Happy spring. And we get a lot of eclipses coming up. I think they're interesting. They were happening a lot in Scorpio time. As we mentioned sort of in that book, over the last few years, prior to that, it was like the summer. Then it went into autumn. Now the eclipse season is in spring. Or it's starting there anyway. So something to be aware of and be open to the possibilities, okay? And honor what the ideas are, whether they come through prayer or your dreams, or, you know, maybe you just want to write things down where you're like, okay, what are my ideas? You know, be curious in there. And don't forget to ask, you know, for what you need, and make sure that you're also taking care of yourself. Okay? Enjoy the little pleasures of life too, comforts if and when you have them. You know, we don't always have, not everybody always has that opportunity. You know what I mean? Okay, it's Saturday, so I'm gonna finish cleaning this house because honestly, it's been a little. I need to do some cleaning up so I can create more, make some space to create. So, anyway, I love you. I hope this is helpful.